Jay bounces. Jay, is there any kind of strategy that you thought of that we can implement?
Down right now and get you the co-host, and we'll get transition in the TheGoyFather show for the week. Talmud talk on Thursdays is back.
Back in action, guys.
Hope everyone's happy.
Right. Is Jay Dawson Juan's second account? Feel slightly, feel like I need to take slight blame for his ban. I did put in the group chat and go and
no, brother.
Sunset, are you gonna be here or no?
No, brother, it wasn't your fault, dude. It was gonna happen eventually, man. Good to see you again, but yeah, that's me.
What's up, Goy?
How's it going, boys?
What's up, brother? Good to see you. Happy you're here. All right, let me see. I can hang out a little longer, and if someone wants to call with Goy, let me know. Maybe Ian comes around. I don't know.
Yeah, I am. I'm here.
Thank God. All right, go ahead then.
I'm setting up Rumble.
Cool.
If I bounce at some point here in the next few minutes, I will be back. But I do have something I got to get done here in a little bit.
Motherfuckers. Welcome, TheGoyFather. Freaking A. Love it.
All right.
And since it's going to be here, all right, guys. I'll see you guys later. See you tomorrow. All right, we have Frankie stocks. I will not do. I don't think Carl and I will do a lot of crypto tomorrow, but we will be there with Frankie, and we run a little morning space with y'all. But yeah, have a good day. Enjoy Talmud, and I think after this we have Ian, right?
Yes, supposed to be Ian later. Uncensored. You said you're getting Rumble going, so you don't need me to record anymore on this one.
Yep, all good.
All right,
Already going.
sweet. The coffee, everything else, all the morning shows are just dropped in. I didn't label yesterday's for the the coffee crypto show. I didn't rename the file yesterday, but they're all gonna be labeled, just dated, and then whatever the show title is in the Google Drive as well for you.
Sounds good.
Right. Let me know our stuff.
Hey, look, I wanted to touch base on everybody with your phishing links that you're dealing with. I do web development. One thing you guys can
All right, get started on this. All right, is everything good on your side, Uncensored? You got your Rumble?
Sure, we're ready.
All right. In the bubble, there's links to Rumble and YouTube. Sources, we are going back to the basics just because I've got like half of the Talmud talks recorded and like the other half aren't recorded. Don't exactly have. So, in Talmud Exposed, Episode 1. What is the Talmud? Going through it. So people who, just want the information can get the information, or people who want to debate the Jews, not get made a fool of. Deception from the Jews. They'll be good to go. Alright. So, first things first. 3 main sources you should use while researching the Talmud. You got... Oh, let me click off that one, bring it up in the other one. You've got halacha.com. I'll put all of these in the bubble as well for anyone on Twitter, just so people can get it on both sides. So you got halacha.com, which is, I believe, what translation is it? Let's have a look. It is Rabbi Dr. I. Epstein's translation. Has pretty much everything. Slightly different translation to Safaria. Safaria is a bit Jewish with its translation. It'll hide some certain stuff. So when you're researching, cross-reference, go from one, go to the other. If you have, I don't know, PDF translations from other people, check them as well. But main two you need is safaria.org and halacha.com, spelt HALAKHAH.com. Then the last one is on a website called comeandhear.com. And then if you go to the Talmud section, pretty much this is the exact same as halacha.com, but it has its own highlights and like notes and stuff like that, which I am going to try and get my own one of these set up. So if anyone would know how to make that possible, feel free, shoot me a DM. And then yeah, we can get that sorted, because there's some stuff missing here. Some of it's alright, but could do with some TheGoyFather annotations and whatnot. But anyway, they're the 3 main things you need. You don't really need any other resources than that. You can always read books. Elizabeth Dilling has a good book. I believe the old name was... What was the old name? She changed the name anyway, but I believe the old name was Plot Against Christianity, and I think the new name of the book is The Jewish Religion, Its Influence Today. That's also on comeandhear.com. There's a couple other books on there, but it's on commonhere.com. It goes through multiple different things. Talmud. It goes through history as well. Has a lot of good stuff. So if you want to do a deeper dive, then obviously you have that as well. They're the main things you need. And for Safaria, if anyone wants to know, pretty much there's a search bar. You can search in keywords. You can find what you're looking for. You type in, if you have a look, type in free. Let's type in 3 years old. 3 years old. Set it to Talmud. And takes us, where does it take us? Straight to Ketibot 11a. Takes us to Berakot 24a. Right? Takes us exactly where we want. 3 years and 1 day old. 3 years and 1 day old. Takes us to what we need. You want to type in slave, look through stuff. You want to type in Jesus and look through stuff. It's probably the better way to find things. I wouldn't consult ChatGPT whatsoever, mainly because it's gonna lie to you. If you have other AIs that are actually gonna filter through stuff that's wrong and get you the correct information, then do so. But I wouldn't trust ChatGPT or Grok face value. If they give you something, check it. If it's real, then it's real. You're good to go. But if it's not, then just leave it. It's best to just do the research yourself. As well as that, there is also my Substack, and there's a video for the Substack called "What Does the Talmud Actually Say?", where I break down the false Talmud meme that everyone posts around that isn't very good whatsoever. It's got quotes that don't exist, it's got misquotes, so on and so forth. So we break that down. That's on the screen now. Link should be in my Twitter bio. But it's like a 40-minute read. The video is, I think the video is like 2 hours, but maybe 2 hours or more, but some of it is a Q&A, so if you want to actually just look at everything in there, then probably only going to be like an hour watch.
Is your Substack TheGoyFather, or is it just GoyFather?
Let me see. What is it? It is TheGoyFather. TheGoy, then father. All okay, so capital T, capital G, capital F. Yeah. Alright. But let's get into what the Talmud actually is, so we can stop losing debates to Jews and being made a fool of because some Jew decides to lie to us and tell us the Talmud doesn't matter. Alright. Right, so first part of the Talmud, or pre-Talmud, should we say, we have the Mishnah. And this is the part that, you know, you'll bring up the Talmud and the Jews will go, oh, that's not the Mishnah, we don't need to follow it, right? But later on, you know, down the rest of these spaces we do, you'll learn how to dissect that and prove that it's a lot of nonsense. But anyway, the Mishnah is what is considered the oral law. You have oral law, written law, both are supposedly one, and I'll bring quotes later to show that both of them are one in the same. But you have the Mishnah written down in near enough 200 AD by Yehuda Hanasi, who is the head of the Grand Sanhedrin. It was actually a commandment to not write the Mishnah down, but turns out, you know, there was a lot of quarrels, should we say, between the Christians, between the Jews. We didn't really like what their traditions were saying. They had to write it as polemics against the Christians because, yeah, the truth was taking over the Roman Empire. But anyway, Yehuda Hanasi, remember that name. Hanasi means prince, pretty much. So he was the prince of the Sanhedrin. That's the top position you can physically have, by the way. So this guy, top dog. He's a top rabbi. You'll hear me, when it comes to the child marriage stuff in the Talmud, you'll hear me quote this guy quite a bit. But anyway, that's the Mishnah. So the Talmud is the Mishnah and the Gemara. The Mishnah is the direct oral law. The Gemara is the discussions, decisions, and conclusions on what the oral law means. which you'll find in the Babylonian Talmud, Jerusalem Talmud, right? So you'll hear Jews always say, every single time, it's just debates between rabbis. Every single time they say this shit, it's a debate between a rabbi, it doesn't matter, or it's a rabbi's opinion, so on and so forth. We'll get onto why that isn't the case in a second, but it's pretty simple. If you say they are discussing, right, the Mishnah, that's what they're debating about. They're debating about the oral law to see what the oral law means. Well, guess what? That means whatever they decide is what the oral law means. So as long as you can find the conclusion within the Talmud, you're good to go. And we'll go further than that as well. But anyway, Babylonian Talmud, compiled in Iraq, 3rd century, finished around 6th. Technically 8th if you include the minor tractates as well. And tractate is like the book, right? There's like 63 or 66 tractates, however many it is in the Babylonian Talmud. They're like the subsection books, right? They go over certain topics and whatnot. And stuff like this. So, 3rd to 8th century, including minor ones, 3rd to 6th, and just in totality. Then you have the Jerusalem / Palestinian Talmud. It wasn't compiled in Jerusalem. I don't know why they call it that. It was compiled in Tiberias, which is like West Palestine. It's in Galilee, I think. Before they used to call it the Talmud of the West and stuff like this because it was like the west of the Byzantine Empire, well, of that region anyway. That was compiled from 3rd century to 5th century. That one wasn't finished though. So Jerusalem Talmud, older, technically, right? If you look at compilation date, it's technically older, but it's not finished, which is why the Babylonian one is the authoritative one. But you'll find stuff within the Jerusalem one, or the Palestinian one, whatever you want to call it, right? Jerusalem one, Palestinian, whatever you want to call it. You'll find certain passages in there, certain quotes in there, certain rabbis in there that aren't in the Babylonian Talmud, or you can also find similar in both. So you'll find the same quote in both of them, but there might be discrepancies between how it's written. Normally, in the Jerusalem one, it will be less censored because it was printed less. The only reason the Talmud got censored, it's a blunder on the Christians' half. We kind of made them censor it. We should have just left it, so down the line we can know what it is. But now we're having to dig up this stuff because we burnt them and we made them censor words and this, that, and the other. So Jerusalem one.
Hey, TheGoyFather, is Mishnah and the rabbi debates, is that considered canon per Judaism?
Yeah. I'll get to that in a second. I'll do questions after, but I'm just gonna run through everything I've got written down, put the sources up, and then after we'll get to questions. But yeah, and then let me see. All right, we're back. We're good. All right. So then we have the halakha, which is Jewish law, right? This is the part where if you debate a Jew and you talk about the Talmud, they'll say, "Oh, it's not halakha. It's not halakha." That's wrong. All of halakha, right? Every single part of it, the foundation, is taken from the Talmud, right? All of it is taken from there. Apart from later things like lighting, like whether or not you can cook on Shabbat, which only came about in the 1950s, or like all this like modern stuff, right? Which it's just modernizing the earlier concepts, right? But all of it derives from one place, and that's the Talmud, mainly Babylonian. The two main works are, and by the way, anyone who would create they call it like a halakhic work, right? A Jewish legal code that didn't derive from the Talmud, they'll be a heretic. It'd be a heretic work, and we'll get onto the punishment for that in a sec. But anyway, the two main works you have, Mishnah Torah, written by Maimonides in Cairo, Egypt, under the Islamic Mamluk Empire, and then you have the Shulchan Aruch, written by Yosef Karo in the 16th century in Safed, occupied Palestine. He was actually ran out of Spain after the Inquisition, and then that book was actually first printed in Italy. So Mishnah Torah, well, the Shulchan Aruch itself is kind of derived from the Mishnah Torah, but Mishnah Torah, the Rambam, if you know what that is, that's Maimonides' name, Rambam, or Moses Maimonides. They call him the second Moses. This is how authoritative this rabbi is. This guy is the top of the top. There's also other works like Midrashes and which is like commentaries, which goes like allegory in the Bible and all this like weird deep meaning that they pull from their arsehole, if I'm being honest. The message is never apparent. But let's get on to, is it canon? Do they truly have to hold to it as a Jew? And we'll get on to the truly important things. So one, the Talmud is most definitely canon to all Jews in a certain aspect. The secular ones who claim they don't follow the Talmud light candles on Shabbat. Where did they get that from? The Talmud. They follow the lineage through the mother. Where did they get that from? The Talmud. They keep their kosher laws. Where did they get that from? The Talmud. Truly the only way to get out of following the Talmud as a Jew is to be a Karaite who denies the Talmud, but they have their own rules, right? They just follow Torah. They pretty much just follow the Old Testament, right? Their own canon of it. The only way to get out of it, if you're not a Karaite, is to just denounce being a Jew. You have to leave the Jewish life, right? And stop practicing your Jewish rituals. Stop lighting your candles on Shabbat. Stop making your key-shaped bread, right? Stop doing all this nonsense, putting your mezuzahs on the door and kissing walls and licking your posts on your doors. They've got your little Torahs in it and Torah scrolls in it. That's the only way to get out of it, is by just denouncing being a Jew. And you know, we have some of these people who you can find over the time, but they're very rare. But let's get into the Talmud itself, and let's see what it says about whether or not it's canon, whether or not it's divine, so on and so forth. First place we always go is Berekot 5a. According to the Jews, everything within the Talmud was handed down at Mount Sinai. So even though they tell you it's debates, it doesn't matter, it's just nonsense, right? No. All of it was handed down at Mount Sinai. So, and let's read the verse. Berekot 5a. Rabbi Levi Bar Chama said that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, God said to Moses, it quotes Exodus 24:12, ascend to me on the mountain and be there, and I will give you the stone tablets and the Torah and the mitzvah that I have written that you may teach them. Then he said this means that God revealed to Moses not only the written Torah, but all of the Torah. By the way, they use the word Torah to reference quite literally everything within Jewish rabbinic works. The Kabbalists will say that the Zohar is the Torah. Right, that's the spice wine. You got milk. Oh, is it milk, wine, and spice wine? I believe it is. Torah, milk, wine, Talmud, spice wine, Kabbalah. Something like that anyway. But yeah, they say that all of the Torah, as it was transmitted through the generations, was handed down at Mount Sinai. Then it breaks down the verse. It says the tablets are the 10 Commandments. All right, everyone can agree there. It says the Torah is the 5 books of Moses. Perfectly fine. Everyone can agree there. Then, this is where, you know, it kind of details off a little bit. It says the mitzvah is the Mishnah, right? So the oral law, which includes explanations for the mitzvah. A mitzvah is like a divine command. Mitzvah is just plural. So it's something that is like a divine command by God. So we have the 10 Commandments, right? I mean, they have the 10 Commandments, but they also have 613 mitzvahs, which is their divine commandments. And later on in different episodes, we'll get onto some of these wild commandments these people have. But anyway, the mitzvah is the Mishnah, which includes explanations for the mitzvah and how they are performed. So that's how you do your kosher rituals, etc. No Jew can escape this unless they denounce being a Jew. Then it says that I have written refers to the prophets and writings. So somehow to these Jews, where it says that I have written that you may teach them, they break down the word that I have written and say that literally means the prophets and writings. So like the book of Isaiah, the Psalms, which to them isn't prophets, it's just writings. Book of Daniel, all these books, right? Ezekiel, etc. All of these were handed down at Mount Sinai to Moses, according to these people. And then it says that you may teach them refers to what? To the Talmud. So they believe Moses was handed down the Talmud. And then let's look what it says. It says, which explains the Mishnah. So when it says the mitzvah is the Mishnah, which includes explanations, what are these explanations? Tells us. It's the Talmud which explains the Mishnah. Then it says, these explanations are the foundation for the rulings of practical halakha, Jewish law. This verse teaches that all aspects of Torah were given to Moses from Mount Sinai. Then we'll go to just to layer works on top of works. just so we always have multiple sources to bury these people with. We have Rambam introduction to the Mishnah. Is this the right passage? Yes. He says, "Know that each commandment that the Holy One, blessed be He, gave to Moshe, right, Moses, our teacher, peace be upon him, was that's their words, not mine, by the way. Was given to him with its explanation, right, the Talmud. He would say to him the commandment, and afterwards tell him its explanation and content. And so too with everything that is included in the book of the Torah and the manner of its teachings." All right, then that's Rambam. That's his first work, Introduction to Mishnah. Then we have Introduction to Mishnah Torah, another work where he just repeats the passage in Berekot 5a, the Talmud, the first tractate of the Talmud, I believe it is. And here it is. It says, "The mitzvot," so the divine commandments, "given to Moses at Mount Sinai were all given together with their explanations," and there's a footnote, we'll get to the footnote in a second, "as implied by Exodus 24:12, and I will give you the tablets of stone, the Torah mitzvah, the Torah, written law, the mitzvah, its explanation. God commanded us to fulfill the Torah according to the instructions of the mitzvah." And then what does it say? It says, "The mitzvah is called the oral law." So that would be the Mishnah, right? The first part of the Talmud, which then was handed down at Mount Sinai. But let's see, because, maybe some Jews can say, "Oh, I accept Maimonides, but I don't believe the Talmud's divine." Let's look at what the footnote says about that passage. It says, by emphasizing, let me zoom in, so anyone who's looking can read. All right. By emphasizing that at the revelation at Sinai, the mitzvot were given together with their explanations, the Rambam stresses that the written and oral law cannot be viewed as two separate entities, but rather as two dimensions of a single whole. See also Rambam's introductions to his commentary on the Mishnah, where he elaborates on the same concept, which is, we just read that. So these two things are one in the same, according to Jews. For the Jews, the Torah and the oral Torah, so the Torah and the Talmud, is one in the same, right? Or the legal rulings from the Talmud itself, right? These things are all one in the same. Now, they can still play the card of, "Oh, well, we only take the legal rulings," which I can bully them if they say that, but just to wipe it out of the park, even within the Talmud itself, we have Eruvin 13b. Let's have a look at what this says. This is, by the way, this passage is going to show us that even the disagreements are both the words of God. The wrong opinion, right opinion, both words of God. According to Jews, by the way. Rabbi Abba said that Shmuel said for 3 years, Bet Shammai, that's like House of Shammai, is pretty much says House of Shammai, House of Hillel, two different Jewish schools of thought, right? Two different Jewish groups who debated each other and whatnot. It says Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel disagreed. These said the halakha, the Jewish law, is in accordance with our opinion, and these said the halakha, the Jewish law, is in accordance with our opinion. Ultimately, a divine voice emerged and proclaimed, "Both these and those are the words of the living God." However, the Jewish law, the halakha, is in accordance with the opinion of Bet Hillel. So somehow, their God comes down and tells these Jews that your opinion's wrong, his is right, but yours is also the words of me. It's also the words of God. So they can't just throw these under the bus. They can't just throw them away and say, "Oh, it's a crazy opinion from a rabbi." No, it's not. This is, according to the Talmud itself, the words of God. And there's multiple other quotes you can get from these people who say this, like Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Rebbe, the guy who Trump prayed to at his grave, who was like the messiah of the Chabad Lubavitchers, kind of like made the idea of like proselytizing or semi-proselytizing, should we say, for like Noahide laws and whatnot. That guy, the reason you see all these guys with the Chabad outfits in governmental places, he says that the Talmud is the wisdom of God and the words of God. Then you have Rabbi Ishmael and what's the other guy's name? I can't remember the other guy's name that also says it, but they also say it's also the words of God. So they can't get away from this whatsoever. Then, another great passage we have that buries these people is the fact that to Jews, or at least to honest Jews, the words of rabbis are more important than the words of God. Or to them, they would mix the two, right? They would mix the two up. So, where's this? Where's this passage on Safaria? So we're in Bava Metzia 59. Bava Metzia 59b. I'll just read it from this side. Let's see. Let me just Control F to find it real quick. All right, here we go. So this is in Safari.org, Bava Metzia 59b. Pretty much, there's a rabbi called Rabbi Eliezer. He was on his own, by the way. He was debating with a group of rabbis. He then says to those rabbis, if the halakha, the Jewish law, is in accordance with my opinion, heaven will prove it. And then a divine voice emerged from heaven and said, why are you differing with Rabbi Eliezer? So God tells them, right, or the voice of God, they claim, depending on who you ask, they'll say it actually is God or it's Spirit of God, yada, yada, yada. Right, but anyway, God comes down and tells them, why are you differing with this rabbi? He's correct, right? It literally says, as the Jewish law is in accordance with his opinion in every place that he expresses an opinion. And then, this is what the rabbis say. The rabbis say, Rabbi Yehoshua stood on his feet and said, it is written, it is not in heaven, referring to the Torah. The Gemara asks, which is like the ruling. So the rulings aren't in heaven no more. And then they say, what is the relevance of the phrase, it is not in heaven? In this context, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, since the Torah was already given at Mount Sinai, we do not regard a divine voice as you already wrote at Mount Sinai in the Torah after a majority to incline. They quote Exodus 23 and 2. But let's look at Exodus 23 and 2. Let's see, does it say to incline after the majority? Or does it say the complete opposite? Alright. Well, we can't use the Jew translation anyway. Let's pull up the actual translation. Exodus 23 2. And this is what it says. Does it say incline after the majority, or does it say the complete opposite? You shall not follow a crowd to do evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute so as to turn aside after many to pervert justice. So for some reason, the Jews quote a verse that says don't incline to a majority, and they say it means to incline to a majority. Typical Jewish deception. But to them, the opinion of the rabbi is more important than the opinion of God, because these people are demons. Then it carries on, since the majority of rabbis disagreed with Rabbi Eliezer, the Jewish law is not ruled in accordance with his opinion. So all of these laws within the Talmud don't have to be in accordance with God. God himself, he did come down and tell them they were wrong, but in their paradigm, God himself could come down and tell them, you are all wrong. And the Jews would go, well, guess what? 10 rabbis think that I'm right. So that means I'm right and you're wrong. But let's see. How does their retarded God reply to this? Their stupid God. Let's go to the other translation, because for some reason they this is where Safaria gets deceptive and changes it. Pretty much it says, what did God do at that time when the rabbi issued this declaration? And they said that God smiled and said, my children have triumphed over me. My children have triumphed over me. In halakha.com it says, what did the Holy One, blessed be he, do in that hour? He laughed with joy, he replied, saying, my sons have defeated me. My sons have defeated me. So not only is the opinion of the rabbi more important than the words of God to these people, they believe that they beat God in a debate. So
they worship a God who's not worth worshiping. It never makes sense to me, like that aspect.
Yep. One sec, bro. I'm gonna keep space mute, and then we'll get to everyone. We're almost done with this stuff. All right. But yeah, their God lost the debate, which then led the Jews are now on top of God. They're now more prevalent than God. They're now more important than God. right? Which is a lot of absolute nonsense. But last thing we'll get into. What is the punishment for a Jew who declines or denies the oral Torah or the Talmud? Right, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Wait for this website to load. It's taking a while. Let's load up the other websites, the multiple sources. Alright. Alright, so on shulchanarukh.com, Jewish website, pretty good website. Actually I can pull it right from there. It says Halakha 1, so ruling 1, this is Halakha by the way, this is Jewish law, so we're actually in the Jewish law this time. We're not only in the Talmud, this is the final rulings, so no Jew can say, oh, that's a rabbi's opinion. No, this is the rulings. It says, a person who denies the old tradition. And here, these are the two stipulates. A person who denies the oral tradition is considered a heretic and is liable for death by all people. Such an individual is not considered a rebellious sage, known as Zakin Mamre, which will be explained later on. Halakha 2 is the law of a heretic. Liable for death. It's going to tell you what's liable for death. By oral tradition, it means that's the Talmud, guys. Mark 7:13, if you read that, what Jesus says, the traditions of your elders nullify the words of God. Was he correct? He was correct. Alright, because as we've shown, their traditions quite literally best God somehow. But anyway, it says, once the matter is made public that an individual is a denier of the Talmud, he becomes liable for death and may not be saved from danger and is to be put into danger, just as is the law regarding any other heretic. In Eliyahu Tuga's translation on Safari.org, this is what it says. It says, where is this? Oh no, next one. Next one, that's reverse. There it is. Alright. A person who does not acknowledge the validity of the oral law is not the rebellious elder mentioned in the Torah. Instead, he is one of the heretics and should be put to death by any person. Anyone. Line 2 says, this is Mishnah Torah, rebels free. Laws of rebels free. Since it has become known that such a person denies the oral law, he may be pushed into a pit and may not be helped out. So that's the put him in danger part. He is like all the rest of the heretics who say that the Torah is not divine in origin, those who inform on their fellow Jews and the apostates. By the way, they're the only three stipulants that make it so a Jew can't get into heaven or have a share in the world to come. If he's a snitch, if he's an apostate, and if he's a heretic. They're the only three things. He could be molesting children all day and night, which is what these Jews do. He's good to go. And we'll get into that in later things. If it comes up in the questions part, then we'll talk about it. But anyway, it says, all of these are not considered as members of the Jewish people. So by the way, if you're a heretic, you're not a Jew anymore. You can't deny the oral Torah, or the Talmud as a whole, or you're not a Jew. Alright? All of these are not considered members of the Jewish people. There is no need for a witness, a warning, or judges for them to be executed. Instead, whoever kills them performs a great mitzvah and removes an obstacle from people at large. So another thing you'll hear Jews say is, well, we don't have a court, we don't have a Sanhedrin, so we can't implement these rules. Guess what? This rule doesn't need one. Clearly states that you don't need a witness, you don't need a judge, you don't need a ruling. Because they've denied it, you can unalive them, right? You can take them out, do it as you wish. I'm guessing it's probably by beheading, according to Maimonides. He loved beheading for some reason. And he says it's a mitzvah, so it's a divine command to unalive the heretics, to kill the heretics. It's a divine command. So any of these Jews who come up and say, oh, we don't follow the Talmud, don't worry, because those people can be killed by their fellow Jews. Right? That's not a call for it. I'm saying according to their own law, it can be done to them by their rabbis. And then here is Mishnah Torah, murderer and preservation of life 4, line 10. It is a mitzvah, a divine command, to kill minim, which is heretic, right? Here it gives a false meaning of what minim is. M-I-N-I-M. And apikorsum, another word. It says the term minim refers to Jewish idolaters or those who perform transgressions for the sake of angering God. Now, in further episodes we do, right? I'll bring forward loads of sources to show that minim implies Christians. So that's us, by the way, which makes it a divine command to kill Christians. But we'll get to that another time. Even if one eats non-kosher meat for the sake of angering God, or wears a shatnez, don't know what that is, for the sake of angering God. Alright, the term apikorsum refers to a Jew who denies the Torah and the concept of prophecy. That includes oral Torah and written Torah, like we showed in Maimonides' works, where he says they're one in the same, right? They're one, you can't separate them, right? They're not separated. They might be distinct, but they're one in the same. Right? So, it's a divine command to kill these people, according to Jewish law, right? Not according to us. We have no say in it. But anyway, that's pretty much what the Talmud is. Other few concepts. In Judaism, pretty much the further back the rabbi can go to Mount Sinai, the more reliable he is. And since their chain of narration, past people like Rabbi Akiva and Yehuda Hanassi are dog shit, the furthest you can go is to the Tanaim, which is the early stages, like the 2nd century, 3rd century rabbis. Alright, these are the most authoritative rabbis. Shimon Bar Yochai, the guy who says kill the best of the Gentiles. Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, the guy who says that you can marry a 3-year-old girl. The guy who wrote the Mishnah itself. Rabbi Akiva, who was a heretic Edomite, by the way. As well as many other of these rabbis. And then obviously they have their students, and you carry on going on and on and on and on until you get to the modern age. Couple other works is the Zohar. That's, to Kabbalists, it's the first Kabbalist literature, written by Shimon Bar Yochai in the 2nd century in a cave. A divine light appeared to him, and he was given this quote-unquote revelation, which says that God is male and female. It says that the angel of the Lord that Jacob wrestled with to receive the blessing of being called Israel is actually Satan. Stuff like this, right? That's the main Kabbalistic work according to Kabbalists. Then you have Netanya, that's Chabad Lubovich's work. But the real dating for the Zohar, real quick, is Moses de Leon, 13th century, written in Spain. No historian's going to tell you it's later than that. That's the first time you can really find it. So I don't think it was written in 2nd century, but it's definitely demonically inspired. But yeah, you have that. You have the Tanya, which is Chabad works, which speaks on the soul of the Jewish people. All these Kabbalistic works, you're not going to find in the Talmud where it'll say that you're going to find supremacy in the Talmud, but you're not going to find the souls of the Goyim are disgusting, are satanic, are impure. This comes from the Kabbalah. So the Tanya, we'll go through the Tanya in a later episode on Kabbalah in general and the souls of the Jews versus the Gentiles, etc. In the Talmud, you get a concept. In the Kabbalah, you get everything laid out and what's going to happen to the soul of us and how they're going to deal with us. All this other lunatic stuff. But yeah, they're the main works you need to worry about. Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Torah, Babylonian Talmud, Jerusalem Talmud, the Zohar, Isaac Luria. If you want to get into the more weird rabbis, you go to Shabbatai Zvi and Jacob Frank. If you heard Candace Owens talk about the Sabbateans and the Frankists, it's not just like a term, right? These people are real. Shabbatai Zvi, 90% of Sephardic Jews followed him. And then he converted to Islam. And then Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is a descendant of him and his people. Then Jacob Frank claimed to be the reincarnation of him, was funded by the Rothschilds, teamed up with Adam Weishaupt, the Illuminated Minds, or the Illuminati, as we know them. Then he infiltrated the Jesuits. He also had orgies with his own daughter and encouraged it. Very sick individual. But yeah, he's the one that made more of a political influence. He converted to Catholicism, by the way. He made more of a political influence. Shabbatai Zvi made more of a how should we say it? Like a social influence. Like 90% of Sephardics followed him, and like a good percentage of Ashkenazis followed him. And pretty much these guys taught something called redemption through sin, which is that you have to be evil in order to bring about the Messiah. Or the world has to be desolate, it has to be disgusting, has to be just repugnant, right? In order to bring about the Messiah. And these are concepts within the Talmud itself. It's not only a Kabbalah thing, they derive it from the Talmud. Robert Sepper has a book on that, by the way. 1666, Redemption Through Sin by Robert Sepper. And Gershom Scholem has a book as well. Or, I guess it's an article. I don't really know if it's a book. But go ahead, read both of those. And, you know, pretty good works. Read Elizabeth Dilling's book. Go through my Substack. And that's kind of all you need in reference to what the Talmud is, how to go about it if people are telling you this isn't the word of God, how to respond to people saying that's just the opinion of rabbis, so on and so forth. But we can start doing questions whenever. I don't really think I have anything else to say. So let me see whoever's requesting. If you have questions, request. Coming up. Ask away. Let me unmute the space. Alright. Tom, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, GoyFather, what's up, man? I wanted to ask if I didn't catch the part about the Sephardic Jews, particularly ascribing to this sort of Kabbalistic version of the Talmud, if I understood correctly. Did I, or am I totally off?
Yeah, not just Kabbalah, right? So it's a certain sect of Kabbalah called Sabbateans and Frankists. It's the shit Candace Owen goes on about. It's not the Jews, it's the Sabbateans and Frankists, even though they're just fucking Jews, right? They're just a different group of Jews. But these guys taught a demonic ideology of bringing the world to complete evil and utter desolation in order to bring about the Messiah. So it's the exact same reason you find Jews promoting gang music, which leads to gang violence, which leads, hookup culture, which leads to single parent households, which leads to more degeneracy, pornography, all this stuff which leads to pure filth and evil in the world, and they think that brings about the Messiah. It's false in prophecy. The evangelicals are just Sabbateans, right? These guys are just Jews. A lot of other, akin to evangelicals who like false in prophecy or helping people false prophecy are just these type of Jews, right? It all stems from the same type of background. I can't remember who it is that had a post on Substack. It might have been A. Westgate, who talked about how Jewish Kabbalists, influenced the Protestant Reformation, right? And stuff like this. So all this false in prophecy, that's the type of movement they are. But it was 90% of Sephardic Jews who followed him, this false Messiah. He claimed to be the Messiah, by the way, and the reincarnation of Jacob himself. Or was it Joseph? Can't remember. But anyway, yeah, 90% of Sephardic Jews followed him. But go ahead.
Is it Episcopalians, Presbyterians, and the other one that you said?
Evangelicals?
Evangelicals. Those are basically the three major factions that are basically Jews LARPing as Protestant Christian religions, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Like Anglicans, more like high church Protestants, they're more like lenient. Like Anglicans and who else? Like Lutherans, like high church Lutherans, they're less Judaic. But the Protestant canon itself is Jewish. They deterred from the Septuagint, the text that the Orthodox Christians hold to, and they instead held to one that Jews who killed the Messiah created. So it's pretty weird. But Tom, go ahead with the rest of what you were saying real quick.
Yeah, so I have this theory, and I have no idea if it's based on anything sound or not, but when I look at a lot of what's happening in South America and the promotion of this Foro de Sao Paulo, which was basically a medium that was meant to secularize and push communism in Latin America, and I look at a lot of what's happening culturally and what's being pushed in Brazil and different parts of Latin America that I'm familiar with, one thing that I'm realizing is that, well, it occurred to me that, is it possible that the people who colonized Latin America were Sephardic Jews, perhaps? Or is that not at all accurate?
Great point. Now, colonization in itself, people might want to brag about it. Oh, great white man invention. Wrong. First embargo to Africa, 1432, done by converso Jews who were hiding, pretending to be white Catholics, sent out on their way to Africa. The second embargo of quote-unquote colonization, done by none other than Mr. What have I drawn a blank? Columbus. Over to the Americas, right? Also, a converso Jew, which everyone kind of knows by now. Now, South America itself depends who, but I know in the later years, right, especially with all the coups that were done and the communism that was pushed, right, all of this was Jewish. If you know anything about the Banana Wars, and the United Fruits Company, which pretty much fronted as like a banana company producing bananas and whatnot, was headed by a Jew. And pretty much what these guys did was they would create militias and send them in to overthrow governments, fronting as a United Fruits Company. And it was headed by a Jew. So that's kind of like a part of the destabilization in South America, as well as I do have some source on this, but I haven't touched on it in a while. But
Goyfather, before you got in the space, I was talking about Apollo Global Management and how Leon Black, one of Jeffrey Epstein's longest time associates, was one of the co-founders, along with Mark Rowan, UJA Federation Chairman, Apollo CEO, and Chairman of Wharton School. The United Group CEO at the time that was trying to rig the banana trade and owned Chiquita and 30% of the global market share of it for a good portion, a good number of years, was Eli Black, Leon Black's father. And he tried to bribe it was either the Venezuelan or Nigerian prince to get favorable or no tariffs on trade, and he went back to New York, and then he just suddenly jumped out of his 42nd story office window, and that was the end of Leon Black's dad.
Typical, the good old shot himself 2 times in the head, but it was suicide type of death. But yeah, like other stuff the Jews have done in South America. I mean, they've been heavily involved in the El Salvadorian dictatorship, which was helped by the CIA, not just Israel, but everyone knows CIA may as well just be mini Mossad at this point. I think it was in 1975. The Israeli government was just giving fighter jets to El Salvador, and they were pretty much using them to just kill a bunch of civilians, which is pretty fucking insane. Where else were they? In the Somoza regime in Nicaragua as well. Also a lot of Jewish involvement. Guatemala, if you know about the Mayan genocide, they were involved in that as well. And the destabilization of their country from, when was it, 1960 to 1995 or somewhere around there. As well as the Pinochet regime. They were also involved in Argentina. Everyone knows about the Israeli-Argentinian uranium sale, as well as selling weapons to the military and dictatorship through the 70s, through the 80s. And then, as well as that, Haiti as well, which is, to be honest, it's just a shithole. But the Jews were heavily involved in Haiti and still are involved in Haiti to this day. The only billionaire on the island is Gilbert Biggio, or Biggio, however you pronounce his name. And he gives loads of money to these gangs who pretty much hold up Catholic nuns for ransom, and hold up tourists for ransom, and terrorize everybody on the island. Which kind of leads to it being even more of a shithole. But yeah, Jews have a lot of influence over destabilizing Latin America and the entirety of that region. But if you have anything else to say, Tom, before we move on to next person, go ahead. All right. I think it's all good. Mud, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you, TheGoyFather, for the show and all the information, in-depth information. I really appreciate it. After listening to, the history, it seems that yet another lie from these gremlins is that they're only 2%. I believe there are millions and millions and millions more, and percentages are much higher in places like Brazil over the years of moving in places there, in the US, or across Europe, in many places where they have parasitically inhabited. So too have grown. And for instance, from 1933 to 1948, they grew 400,000, ironically, during that time period. So that said, and moving forward from there, I imagine there's a lot more of them than we may think, and most certainly than they claim. And what do you think about that?
100% agree. I mean, even from the start, we know 6 million didn't die, but they claim those people disappeared. So it's already 6 million, and since it hasn't moved, it's been from 1919, it was 15 million to today, it's somehow 16 million. I'm sorry, these people have 10 kids at a time, these settlers, and somehow they're telling me it's only raised by 1 million in 100 years. Yeah, beg to differ. So it's already 6 million on top of the 16 million. We're at around 22 million, right? Then, what was the government organization that came out and said that we had the population of the Earth wrong by around 2 billion? How the fuck do we misplace 2 billion people? How many of those do you think accounts for Jews? At least a couple million are in there somewhere, right? Now, Henry Mackau has a piece on this, which he doesn't cite any sources. It's kind of just like speculation to the sort, right? And he estimates around being over 100 million Jews. As well as, obviously, there's conversos, there's crypto Jews, there's people who are Catholics, right? Or claim to be Catholics who are actually Jews. I mean, we had this problem during the Inquisition. We had it even after the Inquisition. Now, we did hunt down a lot of these people and take them out if they were still practicing their rituals. It's been happening from the time of Christ onwards. These people have been trying to become one of us, to subvert our nations. And then what would they do? They'd still practice their rituals behind closed doors because that's what they were. It's inherent in them. That's why the early canons, speak of this, and they speak out about if anyone is found practicing these Jewish rituals, X, Y, and Z. Right? You'll be excommunicated, so on and so forth. Your kids will be taken if you false circumcise them, so on and so forth. Right? So from the start of time, we've been finding these people pretending to be us, but they're not us. Think of all the ones we've let through the cracks, all the ones we've missed, all the ones who were successful in their deceptive missions of pretending to be us, but practicing their faith behind closed doors. I guarantee that number is fucking astronomical. It would be insane.
Yeah, they all changed their names too. I mean, look at all of Hollywood. Look at all the musicians. Look at Gene Simmons, right? I mean, they all changed their names. I mean, even in the leader of Israel doesn't even have his real name, right? So they're chameleons in every form and fashion. It's unbelievable. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, because I had to, I always kind of thought that and just wanted that thought confirmed, right? That other people shared that thought, because there's no way it's 2%. No way. No, I'm thinking way higher.
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy high percentage, like 20s and stuff like this, but it's not 15 million, it's not 16 million, it's not 17 million. I'm putting it like 50 million, right? I don't believe in Henry Mackau's number of like 100. I think he gave like 120 million or something. I don't believe it's that high, right? But I believe it's very, very incorrect what they have it at now. It's at least triple what they have it at.
And then they're outnumbered by Shabbos Goy. then they're worse.
Yep.
Shabbos Goy are the worst of the worst, and I think even outnumber them, right?
Yep. People like President Truman, who was quite literally, as a child, a Shabbos Goy. He was a guy who would turn light switches on for Jews, and then what did he do after that? Oh, that's right. He dropped bombs on Japan, on 2 cities that were predominantly Catholic. Or, not predominantly Catholic, but out of all the regions of Japan that were Catholic, right, or come into Catholicism, those were the regions. And then what did he do? Oh, that's right. Jew tell him to bomb stuff, he bombed stuff. Typical Shabbos Goy. But this is base, this is on his Wikipedia. This is just base level stuff. He was a Shabbos Goy as a child, probably molested by Jews. And then he grows up and he's a president. Typical nepotism, being chosen and just put in a spot. Davey Crocker, go ahead.
Yeah, this would probably be a hard question for you to answer because I know it's not really going to be like specific to all churches or pastors, but I've recently, it's been a long time since I've went to church, and I've recently wanted to get back into going somewhere with my family, and I've just for a long time thought that maybe like really no pastors or churches really exist left in the United States that aren't just completely cucked on Israel or Jews, but I didn't know if do you go to church or does anyone in here that's aware of the Jews go to church, and is there any denomination of a specific church that's more aware of the Jews? And yeah, that's kind of my question. Like I said, it's probably not going to be easy to answer. So
yeah, so anything that is well, realistically, you want to go to the truth, right? Regardless of whether or not it's got corrupt priests, pastors, whatever it is, you want to go whatever the truth is, right? Now Catholicism is a centralized place, right? So pretty much, if the Pope's corrupt, the church is done for. Which some people will claim it is, some people will claim it isn't. It's kind of like a faith issue, right? Not really a politics issue. But Eastern Orthodoxy is decentralized, so we have patriarchs. All of our patriarchs can be corrupted as long as one stands, the church stands. Right, now if all of the patriarchs came together from all these different jurisdictions, right, all these different regions, and they all agreed on something that was wrong, on a heresy, they all erred from the faith, that would mean the church is false. But probably the most, what we would call, quote-unquote, base church is probably the Rokow Church. They were schismed from the Russian Orthodox Church. It stands for Russian Orthodox outside of Russia. It's probably the more prevalent one within America. It's got more of like the aware pastors or aware priests, should we say, right, and bishops and whatnot who aren't cooks, and a very right-leaning at the least. But Rokow Church has always been very based. You have the cathedral in Berlin. Can't remember the name of it. But they bought the land, or well, they didn't buy land. Adolf pretty much gave them land to build a cathedral in Germany for the Rokow Church, as well as the Belarusian branch of that church was thanking Adolf. Loads of other different Rokow churches were thanking Adolf during World War II for saving them from the Bolsheviks or helping them from the Bolsheviks. During Operation Barbarossa, Adolf visited loads of these different Rokow churches. His soldiers attended the liturgy. I mean, some of these churches included him in the prayer service, because they saw him as someone who was liberating them from the greatest struggle they've received, or the greatest attack they've received from the church. Now, they were schismed, which means they were separated, or technically separated, not in communion with Russian Orthodoxy. But then, in the modern age, they came back into communion, and now they're very prevalent in America. It's probably the best bet, the Rokow Church. Probably your best bet to go that route.
I'm sorry, how do you spell that?
ROCOR. It stands for Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia. But realistically, like, any apostolic priest, they don't really talk on politics. It's kind of only like Protestant priests who you'll see stand at the front of congregation and like instead of, you know, I mean they don't really do liturgy or mass, right? They'll just like talk about the world, and that kind of leads to, you know, Greg Locke and stuff, just talking about Israel. We need to get the red heifers. We need to build a third temple, and all this nonsense. So I mean, you don't really have that that issue. To me, Eastern Orthodoxy works. It's not a political religion, but it can be align with our political values easily. Fasson, that's good. C Dukes, go ahead.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hey, what's going on, TheGoyFather? How you doing, man?
All good, bro. How's it going?
I had a question. It's something that you mentioned earlier, just to kind of go back, you know, maybe 25, 30 minutes. But, yeah, because I live in South Florida, man, and I know a lot of Haitians too, man, and they're talking about, you know, all the gang violence and stuff like that and, you know, gun trafficking. And you mentioned that Gilbert Bigio, whatever, a retired Haitian businessman, founder of GB Group, Haiti's only billionaire, and he was sanctioned by the government of Canada and his involvement in arms trafficking and human rights violations in Haiti. Does that guy still resides in Haiti? You know, it's just like out of curiosity with all this stuff, all these, you know, things, all these atrocities that's been committed in Haiti, and it's causing them to actually, you know, move this way, you know. There's thousands of, you know, of illegal, you know, immigrants, you know what I mean? It's just that, is this guy's actually the, you know, root cause of this problem and his associates, do you think?
Yeah, so he still lives in Haiti. This guy's the one giving all the arms to the gangs, right? He's giving all the money to the gangs. He's being caught money laundering and arms trafficking, everything through these gangs. He's the boss of the island, right? He is literally...
And he's Jewish.
Yeah. The only billionaire on the island, and he's a Jew. Yeah, typical.
That's crazy.
He's got
typical.
He's got a big old house in the mountains in Haiti. I can't remember what region.
And so he probably was the cause of like the killing of the Haitian president then.
Most likely. I haven't looked all the way into that part, but he kind of, if it was the gangs, it was probably his order. But even prior to that, right? One second, you got a bit of noise, so I'm just gonna mute. Then I'll mute after. Prior to that, when America invaded Haiti, right, and pretty much took all of its gold and like swapped banks from the French to their banks, it was actually a Jewish bank who went to Haiti and pretty much tried to take control of their banks. They said, no, we're good, fuck off, right? What they then did was went back to America, went to the government, decided to lobby for them to invade Haiti, and then when America invaded Haiti, pretty much that bank, I think it's Citi Bank, CITI Bank. I think it's that bank. I might be wrong, or it was called Citi Group, but before, right? Headed by Jews. When they went back into Haiti, when America invaded it, they took over the banks, and instead of just making the loans null, right? They took the loans from the French banks that were there, then upped the rates of interest on the loans, and then took every ounce of gold that was there, everything else that was there. They just stole everything, and then kept the loans in place, but just made the rate of interest on it way higher. And then since there, I mean, Haiti's always been fucked, I'm not gonna lie. But since then, Haiti's been even more fucked. This time, it was just fucked by the Jews this time. But yeah.
Correct, yeah, because I mean, like, yeah, because, you know, people talk about this stuff and, you know, but they're just not never, you know, I mean, ever clear about, you know, whereabouts or who was involved. But this is actually really deep. And so a lot of people who actually, because I've met some like old school, you know, Haitian guys talking about they wish they were, you know, back in their country. They can live the life that they really want to live because, you know, their currency is actually significantly different than, you know, ours. It's like our $100 is like $1,000 for them. You know what I mean? So they can live lavishly, down there. And so now with with the current, obscenity with all the gang violence and stuff like that, they're unable to actually leave here to go down there because it's practically unstable, as you can see through the news media. So it's crazy, man. Goy, man. I mean, like GoyFather, man. From you bringing this up, I'm like, man, that's crazy. So, I mean, what do you think? Next 5 years, what do you think? Are they just trying to clear Haiti out to, to extract all their resources and annex Haiti?
I mean, I don't really know like too much about what they're going to do. To me, they've already done it, right? Like the plan's already in action. The plan's already in full effect, right? It's like I'll try to find the video of the rabbi, and put it in the bubble, but he's pretty much talking about how the poorest or the most uncivilized people were given all the resources, and then it was the Jews' job to bring those resources to more civilized people, and this is Tikkun Olam. This is the repairing of the world, for Jews to just steal other people's resources and this shit. To me, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what's going on there. Like, I don't know. Like, fuck knows. To me, it's already done. I don't think there's saving for Haiti. It's a shithole. They just killed all the French people there. Since then the Jews kind of came in, took over, and they're fucked. Can they save themselves? Probably not. Too many gangs. It's just savagery. To me, I think the Catholic nuns should just be moved into the Dominican and then call it a day. Apart from that, just let the gangs shoot each other instead of shooting tourists and civilians and Catholic nuns and all this other shit. Apart from that, I don't care too much. But let's go to Hummingbird.
Hey, GoyFather.
How's it going?
Hey. All right, mate. Yeah, thank you for sharing, hosting the space and all that. To the individual who earlier was on and he was asking if like some of us are church goers and asking about advice on churches, I'll say that a lot has changed in the past year or so, and is changing rapidly within Christianity and all sects of Christianity, including Protestantism and evangelicalism. And it seems like people are starting to question these subversions and starting to gain courage and speaking out against it. So I just wanted to encourage him and others to explore churches in and around your immediate communities. Go to a service, a coffee hour, or some other events, and see what the energy is like. See what the priests are speaking about, and where the energy is, and feel free to speak out and to spark fires. I mean, if they're speaking about Israel and Jews as God's chosen, for example, challenge that on its head, and people will stand with you, especially considering the events that have transpired in Israel recently. And yeah, also like build relations with your kinship in and around the church. Like if you're white, fellow white folks, especially considering our plight here. And I'll just say one more thing. It seems like a lot of this hatred and attack on whites and Christianity is a result of Jews trying to erase and steal our history and our identity. I understand that Jesus was Aryan and the Israelites also, and that they dispersed into present-day Europe, and so they have a special hatred for us. If you're Christian or not, it is a genetic thing. Anyway, thanks again, Goy Father. I think it's like great to highlight the diabolical nature of the Talmud. I mean, and expose it for what it is. So thank you, and God bless.
God bless. Good stuff. All right, let's go to Adolf. Go ahead. Mr. Griff, Hitler.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hummingbird, haven't seen you in a few days. Hope you're doing good. I was suspended the last couple days. I'm back now, still waiting on that blue check mark. I also want to change my profile picture so I can get those cool shades everybody has, but it won't let me yet. Yeah, not much going on. I mean, we do have a new pope. Looks good. I mean, first American pope. For all you 8D chess people, maybe Trump will team up with the Pope and take down Israel, but doubt that'll ever happen. But anyways, God bless to everybody. Hope you have a blessed week, and Hail Hitler.
God bless. God bless. All right. If anyone else has got questions, request, or if anyone up here has got questions, just raise your hand.
Raise.
Go ahead, Steve. My bad. I can't see you. Go ahead.
I'm not so great with instructions sometimes. That Eastern Orthodox outside of Russia. I know about them. I think like a lot of them. My buddies are like all. Well, if you know one of them, I guess you know them all. So pretty interesting.
What's this guy on about? Okay. All right. All right. We'll keep it open another. How long have I been live? 10 minutes, and then I guess whoever can run open mic for whatever topic people wanna get into. If anyone else has got last questions though, coming up, or anything they want to say related to the topic, because it's not open mic just yet. If not, then we will wrap it up. Are you there, Uncensored? Oh. Let me mesh as Uncensored. Make sure. Oh wait, Mark's coming up. Let Mark go, and then we'll wrap it up. Request again, Mark. Cannot. See if you can approve people from the main account. Uncensored is bugging out a little bit.
Cool. I can do that. Give me just a second.
I'm accepting.
Yeah, I had no audio for a second. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, okay. All right, Mark, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Godfather. Just to follow on from Hummingbird there, when selecting a church, this is quite a radical take, but the word church, as you probably know, comes from the Greek ekklesia, which basically means a called out assembly. In the context, we are called out, obviously, from sin. We're called out in a sense, from the culture, especially a debaucherous culture with that we see today and that was around back then and all that. We're called out from that too, but we're also called out from the system that we are subject to. The early disciples were called out of that Babylonian, Roman, Pharisaical system itself. Okay, so I won't ramble on, but we don't want to join these churches that, you know, lick the boots of these politicians and carry water for their agendas. And there's a lady on X, I won't name her, but, you know, her church, every single person got vaccinated. The preacher was, you know, preaching about getting vaccinated. That's just one little example. But the church was the called out assembly. It was called out from the world, the cosmos. And in that context, the cosmos means the system, the order of government even. That's how radical the church really was. So, and I'll end it here. If your church or the church you're looking at is registered with the state, it is subject to the state. Okay, they've done a deal with the devil in a sense, and they're not allowed to talk about things that are against the law, or the state has a muzzle on that church. That's the deal. If the church wants those tax benefits that it receives from the state, it has a muzzle on it, and it makes that deal with the devil makes the word of God to none effect ultimately. So just be very careful. It is a radical take, I understand, but we are commanded to come out of this world. We're called out of this world, which is the whole thing, not just, you know, sinning and you know, masturbation and, you know, all these little things that they're so obvious, right? We're called out of something a lot deeper than just you know, the superficial sins and so forth. So just wanted to have a bit of 2 cents there to follow on from Hummingbird there. Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Funk, go ahead.
Funk Machine, you there?
Here I am. G'day. I hope you're all doing well. I'll follow on a little bit from Mark as well. Just be careful in the church you choose, though, because you don't want to end up in a Jonestown cult where you know, they're breaking out of the system and they're going to lead you into the jungle somewhere and make you drink the Kool-Aid. So, you know.
You don't like Pope Dustin Demos, Funk?
Yeah, you know, he's all about breaking the system. But I also don't want to misdirect from what Mark was saying as well. Like, you know, he did say some important things there. But GoyFather, I popped up because I seen that you were getting a bit lonely, and I just wanted to ask you one question. Do you think that that the wall that the Jews go worship, do you actually think that it is the footing of the temple, or do you actually think it may be just remnants from a Roman fortification and the actual temple was further up the hill? Like I seen, look, and it was just a quick clip that I seen that potentially the temple was built further up the hill where there is a natural spring. So I just wanted to get your little take on that. Are they just worshipping rocks?
Yeah, it's nowhere near. That wall isn't a temple. The Romans built that wall. It was the Roman compound. It could also possibly be the Roman compound where like the baths were, and where the Romans took a piss, right? So these Jews are worshipping a wall that is covered in piss, and they're humping it, they're licking it, they're putting little notes inside it for the wall to answer the prayers. They believe the divine presence of their God is inside this wall. Maybe he's stuck, I'm not sure. You can't save them or something, I don't know. Right, but yeah, it's nothing to do with the what's it called? Nothing
with Solomon's temple.
Nothing to do with it.
It's talk about talk about idolatry. You know, that is the ultimate idolatry right there.
Yep. There's even there's a map. I'll try find it to put it in the bubble. But it pretty much shows where the real temple is and then where the what's it called is. But yeah, that's just a wall that these pagans love to lick. 25,000 stones. They've got the tongs all over it. And then Jimmy, we'll go with Jimmy last. Go ahead, bro.
What's going on, bro? Fantastic job on the explanations of the Talmud and so on and so forth. I just got one question for you. Do you believe that Mystery Babylon is Jerusalem, Israel?
I don't really have like a definitive position on like what Mystery Babylon is. I haven't really looked into like the eschatology and whatnot. Don't look into it too much. But it's definitely a Babylon-like force. I'll say that.
Oh, thank you for answering that.
God
bless, bro.
Mark's got his hand up for you too, brother. Mark's got his hand up again for you too, brother.
All right. Well, good. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Godfather. Thanks, Funk. And it's because of Funk that I put my hand up again, because he just reminded me that when I say that they were called out of the system and everything, you know, we're talking about the financial system too here, okay? You know, Funk's a Bitcoin guy and I'm a crypto guy. I think crypto is a great tool for this endeavor. We have to remember we can't be hypocrites, right? Because, you know, we're all in sort of one of two boats ultimately here. There could be an exception, but we're either giving money to the Jews, okay, because they're taking 30% to excuse me, to 50% of what we make. We've entered a system where we've contracted away a portion of our labour and we're basically giving them our energy, okay, voluntarily. Okay. And it is voluntary ultimately, okay? We don't have to join this system. Our parents didn't have to register us in and all that type of thing. There are people that do live outside the system, okay? Once we're in it, we're screwed, okay? But we did volunteer to go in it. Our fathers did for us, which also Jacob did to his 12 sons, if you remember the situation in Egypt. But anyhow, and they were stuck there for 400 years. But anyhow, the point being is that we're either giving energy to the Jews, we're in one of two boats, or we're on the take. We might be on welfare, might not be a fault of our own, we might be injured or elderly, and we're taking money from the Jews because the government doesn't have any money. We might be getting the money through the government, but the government couldn't give us the money unless they were borrowing it from the Jew bank, right? So we're either taking money from the Jews or we're giving money to the Jews, giving them energy. So we've got to see, hey, how do we get out of this situation? Because until we stop doing business with them, we can't be too much of a hypocrite because we're not in good standing. We're biting the hand that feeds us. It's a bad situation. That's why we have to think about solutions. And Jesus gave us that solution, okay, to walk away from that system, that Babylonian system. So yeah, just wanted to follow up on Funk there. Thanks.
All right, great stuff. If anyone else has got any questions for me, go ahead. If not, we'll wrap it up, and then Uncensored can take it away to whatever's going on next anyway. Just speak if you.
Beautiful. I have one rather inflammatory question.
Go ahead.
What do you think is the biggest issue in the schism? Like, what would you say is your primary factor in the schism?
Well, like theological or like what the
yeah. Definitely, politics aside, we could always work through political issues, but theologically, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much just filioque and papacy. Like purgatory, we have toll houses, we have our own, akin, which is kind of, like purgatory, not in the full sense. I'd probably say
Is you guys
papacy.
purgatory still okay? Papacy.
Yeah.
Is your purgatory or whatever? Is it still because in our view it's up, right? It's not down. You're not going into hell or anything, right? Is y'all still like you're going up and then you just go up further, right? Is kind of the simplistic way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, our idea of heaven and hell, at least from what I know, are like states of being, like not literal, like literal places. At least, like there's certain church fathers that speak about how it's they're both in the presence of God. It's either you are prepared for it and your body is sanctified for it, normally through theosis, and then you will be in bliss and you will feel the glory of God and be able to withstand it, or you can't, and then you would be punished by being among the presence of God, and His glory would be excruciating. Now, Toll House, I'm not sure the full. I don't actually like. I'm not too sure, right? To me, I think it's like a journey where the soul goes, right? And then
is it more along like Dante's Inferno? Is that what you're sort of talking about?
I'm not too sure. I'll look into what the father said, then I'll DM you it. But from what I know, I'm pretty sure it's like once your soul like departs, right? Or well, not instantly departs, right? But it's like the journey through. I don't know like what realm they say it is, but then it's where all the wicked spirits are, and then they accuse you of sin, etc. So it's not exactly the same, but some views of it can be like deemed pretty much just like akin. But I'm not entirely sure. I'll DM you though once I look into it fully.
What year was the schism?
1050 some odd or something like that. I don't know. 10 something. That feels right.
1054?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, 1054.
I'm gonna drop out.
I'll go, bro.
Losing you there, Funk. Rubber band land, homie.
Oh. Yeah. We've definitely lost him. Alright, yeah, but I'd say papacy is probably the biggest discrepancy. Just because it changes the church from centralized to decentralized. Or changes it from decentralized to centralized. It's kind of like if the papacy is true, then the filioque has to be true, right? So filioque can't be the number one difference, because if papacy is true, then filioque is true. If it's not, then you can kind of get into the nuance of things. But anyway, Grim, you go ahead if you got anything from there. Then we'll wrap up.
Hey, what's up, man? I just had a question. So I was watching some videos of a pastor that was actually going through the Talmud and just pointing out, like highlighting some spots. But he said he had to pay like $1,200 for the version he had. Did they try to like gatekeep it, or is there a digital version I can get for free somewhere?
Yeah. So the start I went through a couple sources. Let me actually, I'll put it in the comments and put it in the bubble real quick. I'll put all of the sources that I use. But yeah, don't buy a Talmud. Very fucking stupid. A waste of your money, because it's a lot harder to read as a book than it is as a what's it called. You're not going to read the full book. It's pointless. You're going to come to passages where they're talking about how tall or how wide you can build a fence. It's like, do we really need to fucking discuss this shit? Not really. So let me there's that one, and then let me get the final website for you real quick. But yeah. Alright. Let me just find the reply. Share to space. All right, it'll be in the bubble now. Halakha.com. That's for me. It's a better translation to look at. Safari.org. It's more of like a modern website where it's got loads of different Jewish texts, not just the Talmud. And you can search keywords in to find what you're looking for. And then comeinhere.com is halakha.com, but it has highlighted passages depending on like whereabouts you go. So if say you click on a certain tractate or a certain passage, it'll have all the bad stuff you're looking for already highlighted, which I'm gonna try and find out who can help me make my own version of that, because he's missing a load of shit. But I would love to have my own version of something like that, and then I can have my own connotations to it, my own annotations, sorry. And actually give more passages. But yeah. Should be in, I think, yeah, it's in the bubble now.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Oh, good. All right. People keep coming up as we're trying to wrap up. El Tres Tostada. Last guy, go ahead. What you got?
El Tres going once. Going twice. All right.
All right. What are you doing after this Uncensored? Is it open mic?
Yeah, we'll probably just hang out for a little while. Is this so about 2 hours, right? Can I just put you down for that every week? We'll do something like that.
Yeah, so sometimes like it might be longer, but if someone's like already, got something that's booked in after me every week, then I can like keep it to 2 hours. But if it's open mic, sometimes maybe I might message you and I'll be like, oh, after we're done, I'll host like debate hour or whatnot or some shit like for however long until like,
okay.
Who's after me? Ian Malcolm? Is that who's after me?
Yeah, he's not for so what time is it? It's 5. He comes on at 7. So he's still 2 hours away. So I'm just gonna put you down for 3.
Yep.
And then that way I can I'll just finagle one more little 1 hour time slot just in case somebody's asking for one or something like that. So
all
sweet.
Right. Good stuff.
Sweet.
All right. God bless everybody. If you wanted to see any sources that I was going through, posted the Rumble link, the YouTube link. You can look at them both. Going back to the start just so I can have videos for everything instead of like going through the same shit over and over and over again. Now somebody asks what's the Talmud, link them a video, good to go. Right, and then next week we'll do a topic. Next week we'll do another topic. Then from there we can kind of just go into random stuff. But anyway, God bless everyone. Appreciate the time slot as usual. I'll catch you boys next week.
Yo, give me a follow back, nigger.
All right, go.
Hitler, quit asking people to follow you. That's so Jewish.
All right.
Earn it. Earn it. We're National Socialists here.
I might tune in for the what's it called for the open mic. I'm just gonna get food and shit. So, all right. I'll see you guys. You can take me off co-host just in case it glitches uncensored. If I leave.
Beautiful. Yeah, give me just a second and I'll make sure I get that done there. It may take me a sec, but I'll get it done here. I'm walking around with my son, walking around the block right now.
Oh, good, perfect.